There's been a lot of media coverage of elections in the last few years. Can you describe how that's changed since you first got in terms of number of reporters or just overall coverage of elections?
Mm-hmm. You know, when I started, so many reporters who covered me and covered elections when I started out. We had 2 newspapers, 3 television stations, 4 radio stations, and they'd spend time with me. We'd have lunch together. I could give them background. They learned my job. But what's happened with journalism, I think you're seeing it around. It's scary to me. How do I get information? What information are people getting? You can't control it, so all of these rumors start spreading. And while I can get information to my reporters, when you've got Twitter out there, you've got blogs out there that people are believing they're getting the source of information, it's very difficult. I think I've talked about this. All of these other sources of information that people have, it's very difficult to keep up with that. And I didn't know what Twitter was. My son texted me, it's all over Twitter that you don't have to be registered to vote. All you have to do is show up at the student center and get a provisional ballot. Well, I thought, what is going on? What is Twitter? And within 30 minutes, the poll workers at the student center, we have a super precinct there where anybody can go and vote, called, and it was just pandemonium. There were like 1,200 people were showing up, wanting to vote, having been told on Twitter they didn't have to be registered to vote. They could get a provisional ballot, and it was just a mess. And so at that point, well, I guess I better find out what Twitter is. And again, you cannot control the flow of information. At least I could call the managing editor and scream at him, which, believe me, more than once I called the owner of the paper and the managing editor and these people. One time I called a press conference and, blasted the newspaper, which the other, of course, media sources love. But, there was somebody accountable that I could get to. That doesn't exist anymore. And while it's great when it's correct information, but there's a lot of garbage going on out there. a lot of difficult information. And people need to be very careful about the sources of their information.